Ideogram 2 is crushing text, and the new Flux updates are getting super personalized.
Which is great if you're George Costanza, and it's also super problematic if you're Taylor Swift.
We will dig into how this is literally changing media as we know it.
Plus, OpenAI just released new blog posts. That's cool. It's not Strawberry or the advanced voice stuff or Sora, their video model, but we got a lot of words, Gavin.
We got words, baby. That's so exciting. All of that, plus we'll be showing you some new AI tools that allow you to make sketches, comedy sketches, that are pretty fun in under an hour.
What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, boats.
Wait a minute. They're easy to make and they're watchable?
And it's almost good, Kevin.
Speaking of almost good, this is AI for Humans.
Welcome, everybody. This is AI for Humans, your weekly guide into the wonderful and wild world of generative AI. We are here, and I am here, and Kevin is here. Kevin, what is going on? How are you today?
Hey, buddy, it's good to be back. Thank you for holding down the old fort, and thank you for all of the not kind messages that everybody posted about me being gone last week.
We had a great time with Ben Rellis, but we are very happy you are back. But Kev, it is another giant week in the AI world, as it is every week, and so it is time to get into the news.
That was my news dive. I've been working on it.
That's right, big, huge AI imaging updates this week. The biggest and most latest one is that Ideogram 2.0 just launched. This is a brand new AI imaging update to Ideogram, which we have talked about on the show before. Ideogram was always very well known for the early days of being pretty good at text. And when we say pretty good, back in the day, it was like, it got the words shaped right and most of the words on screen. But Kevin, this update just, to me, showed me that we are entering a new world where all of this stuff is going to continue to get better and better.
I feel like it's a secret weapon amongst some AI creators. The new update has a bunch of features that make the text experience way better, but there's additional updates outside of that, like color palette support, which at first might not seem like a huge deal, but if you're dealing with a brand and there are very specific colors that you want to assign to things, they have an example of multiple living rooms, Gavin, where there's like a blue palette, a red palette, or a yellow palette, and they're just applying those colors to the scene, and it accurately and reliably does that. If you're a developer, they now have an API which lets you use the service via their backend, so you can do tons of requests. You're not restricted to just their website. They have an iOS app out now, so you can go and browse and create right from your phone, which is really cool. But you like the realism stuff here, Gavin.
One of the things about this is all of these new AI imaging models, and we talked about Flux on the show. Obviously, Midjourney 6.1 has come out. They are all getting so good at realism, and what this is going to end up being is kind of like, choose your poison is maybe the wrong way to say this, but choose your tool and figure out what you can do. The realism here is great. There's images they released of pictures of people that look very solid. I don't know if it holds up to, say, the top of the line Flux or Midjourney. We played around with it a little bit. I used it to generate an image of Monster Milk. If you're familiar with our show, you know Monster Milk is the drink that sometimes we feed to AIs. I wanted to see, could it create a essentially like a magazine or a website ad for Monster Milk? So what I asked it was, I said, an ad for an energy drink with the name Monster Milk. It features a can of Monster Milk and the subtitle, "Your AI will never be the same." So Kev, you've seen this. It very much looks like to me something you could see in, like, say, Game Informer, RIP, circa 2012, let's say, right? Like, it's a can of Monster Milk with a very clear, graphic that says at the bottom, "Your AI will never be the same." The words all look very solid. There is one interesting thing about this, if you are not watching this, that I think Kevin will point out.
What are you talking? If you're a lawyer and you love IP infringement, is that what you're talking about? The fact that it has the Monster Energy logo directly on the can, but you didn't ask for that specifically. You said Monster and energy drink, so that would be an interesting connection to make. But clearly the logo is in there and not being censored in the output.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is it is very directly the Monster Energy drink can. It is very directly the Monster Energy logo. And yet it just had no
And even
problem.
their famous tentacle, because as the preferred beverage of manga and hentai enthusiasts, it
Is
even
that-
got the weird
That isn't
gray
part of really
tentacle.
Monster Energy, is it?
No, it's not.
I don't know enough about Monster Energy to know if that's actual Monster Energy lore or not.
I will say from a font perspective, like not only is it getting the text right that you asked for, right?
Yep.
The monster is in a very Monster Energy-like font. It shows a different font beneath that. Your AI will never be the same. It went with this purple gradient, bold font down below. The only gibberish seems to be like the vitamin labeling across the top, where it would normally be like asbestos, taurine,
Which isn't that gibberish anyway most of the
theanine.
time? You know?
Yeah, basically. I'm like, it's all lead paint. That's all it is in these energy drinks. But it's really, really solid. It does a great job with lots of text in a single image. But I do wonder about the IP infringement here.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that's important to think about, especially as you get into the idea of these things being used commercially, right?
So one of the things you mentioned was that these different image models have their different strengths. And when we talk about the realism here, it might not be as good as the best-in-class Midjourney or Flux or even Stable Diffusion stuff. But what's impressive about the ideogram approach is that you don't have to bolt on a bunch of different products and pieces and custom train things. It does a really good job out of the box. And you generated some realistic looking people that were stylized.
So we're going to talk about this later, but over the weekend I made up a weird series of videos called AI Dates for You, which are kind of a parody of the late 80s, early 90s dating videos that we all love on the internet. But I wanted to see, could it make a screen grab of a ad for this show? And so all I prompted it was like screenshot from the television ad for, in quotes, AI Dates for You circa 1989. And it provided a pretty good image of two people sitting in front of what looks like a TV set on a studio set, where behind their heads it says AI Dates for You. The guy has a nice mustache and a blazer with a t-shirt underneath it, and the woman, it's a little funky age-wise in terms of like you're not exactly sure what year these people are from. The woman could be from like 1950 or from 2022 in Bushwick for all we know. But like this is, you know, a really cool look at that. And then the funniest thing is, of course, and we're going to get into this more later, I then took it and ran it through Runway Gen 3 Turbo, and I had these people walk onto the set. And other than the fact it thought the name of the show was Al Dates for You, which is a different show probably, it was really compelling in a literal 5-minute workflow to get something that was like an idea that was in my brain straight into the real world.
We're going to deep dive into that workflow later on in the show, but it's just really exciting to finally be able to create at the speed that you can imagine things.
And before we move on to our next big story, there's a couple things we have to tell everybody here. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We do these every week. There's a full episode that comes out every Thursday and fun stuff that comes out throughout the rest of the week. And also join our Patreon. Our Patreon will be our first link below this video or on our audio. We are actually opening our Discord next week. It is for real. We have a Discord. I'm excited to share these workflows with people that are in our audience. And also, Kev, I'm sure I would love to hear their workflows as well, because that's one of the biggest parts of this whole space.
So let's switch gears, but stay on the topic of AI imaging, because Flux came out of nowhere, and it seems like every day there's new updates, there's people creating new amazing with it. That's the power of open sourcing a model. And we're seeing personal training happen. I remember like Flux came out, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago,
and people said, oh, but you'll never be able to do... And then after the ellipses, a whole string of things that everybody was going to be wrong about.
Yeah.
Because communities find a way. And now we've got personal training, creating Loras for whatever you want, for products, for people, for brands.
Yourself.
For yourself, yes.
Yeah. It's pretty, what's crazy to me about this is you and I have been doing this show now for a year and a couple months, and Stable Diffusion 1.5, which was like my favorite early model of the open source models, allowed you to do this, but it was so much worse. Flux is such an incredible model that it allows you to make extremely realistic looking images. And Kev, one of the best things that came out was Fluxstanza. A ex-user named It's Spoida Man or Ghost put out a Lora, which is a trained model of George Costanza, and he called it Fluxstanza. And this basically allows you to take George Costanza, the character from Seinfeld, and put him into almost anything you'd want him to put into. So the examples that are on the Civet AI page, which we'll link to in the show notes, is like him on a motorcycle. It's him on a tarot card. There's just all sorts of interesting things you can do with this.
There were entire startups dedicated to training these custom models where you could upload all these photos and you could give them $20 a month or sometimes hundreds of dollars. Now, not only can you do it for free locally if you have a decent enough machine and you want to spend the time to do it, but a website that you turned me on to, FAL, F-A-L, lets you for $5 whole train a custom Flux Lora without any real technical knowledge. You just upload the images, as many as you want, of the person or the object that you want to train, hit the button, and now you can apply it to so many different styles. Obviously, the internet is going insane with it, and style transferring themselves to be Spider-Man with big bushy mustaches and beards, or going full anime with it. And unfortunately, this leads us to our next topic, which is the present hellscape that is mis and disinformation, Gavin, because a certain presidential candidate tweeted out AI imagery of Taylor Swift fans and made it seem as if the contingent of Swifties out there is supporting his candidacy.
This is something we talked about a little bit last week in terms of Grok especially, right? So Grok images are powered by Flux, and this all goes back to that idea that you now have a cutting edge image model, AI image model, in the hands of basically tens or hundreds of millions of users who are going to make interesting edge case stuff with it. And in this case, what's fascinating is there were pictures of fans of Taylor Swift, ostensibly. These are all AI images that were wearing shirts that said Swifties for Trump on them. And then the orange one actually posted it on his own Truth Social account. And obviously, this is the kind of thing that we expected. Now, Kev, I will say one thing about this that has kind of been interesting to me is the stories that came out of this, and there's a great New York Times story on it, but a lot of the ones, the stories weren't like, oh my God, are these Taylor Swift fans actually Trump fans? It was much more right away, Donald Trump is retweeting AI images, right? So like it wasn't like it fooled the mainstream press.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that the New York Times, their bend on the story was, oh, we're sharing AI imagery. I'm sure on my father's Facebook page, it's a very different share from a very different something going like, finally, the Swifties have seen the light, right?
It's Shrimp Jesus with a shirt that says Shrimp Jesus for Trump. And he's like, I love that. I love Shrimp Jesus.
I mean, look, when we started this journey together, it feels like eons ago, we
Just
talked
a journey
about
together? Is that what you would describe this as? We're on a journey. Are we holding hands? Am I carrying you or are you carrying me? Is this
There's
footprints?
one set of footprints on this podcast, Gavin.
Sorry, when we started this journey
it's our patrons.
Together. Yeah, that's right, exactly.
When we started this, we knew we were staring down the barrel of an upcoming election year, and we said, oh man, the potential for misinformation and disinformation. I, at the time, was imagining these little cabals releasing modified video clips to catch a candidate doing an oopsie that they never did or whatever, and we got a little bit of that. But to me, this is actually the more insidious stuff, because whether you or I or someone watching or listening to this knows immediately, oh, that's AI imagery, that's not the point. The point is if you can flood the lane with little nudges like this all the time, even if 1% of the audience receiving the messages thinks, oh, these people are supporting this person. Oh, these people are against this person. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just confusion and noise and chaos that with these tools, you can deliver those messages at lightning speeds.
I bet there are a lot of things that have been waiting to drop until post-election. And I've said this on the podcast a couple times. Lots of people are shouting out the fact that AI is dying, that the advances are not that strong. I think if you look at the stuff we just talked about and the stuff we're going to talk about later, you may not just be looking at the right side of things per se, but like there are new advances coming for sure.
Yeah, insane new tools dropping left and right, and we consider it a slow news week.
Yeah.
That is how wild this scene is. I will say, though, hey, kudos and shout outs to Google, Gavin. You're not going to find any AI generated Swiftie nonsense over there because you might not be able to generate anything with the power of Imagen 3.
So I do want to say Imagen 3 is a new AI generator from Google, and Imagen has been their kind of like cutting edge image generator. And there's a lot of interesting, cool updates that they've made with it. But I tried to use it to create a image that I used to make one of these videos I'm going to talk about later, AI Dates for You. Specifically, I was trying to create a woman from the 1990s who was a beautiful actress who was staring at the camera in a cheetah leotard with in a vintage gym, and I said realistic 35 millimeter film, and it gave me 0 results. And you look at that prompt and you're like, well, I don't know if that's like, is there anything in there that seems problematic?
I was looking for something problematic, which is what I do the moment you send me anything, Gavin, because I have to save you from yourself. That's how this podcast works.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm the one set of footprints. I was like, is cheetah leotard too presumptive or something? But not only did it recognize it in the prompt, it highlighted it and made it a dropdown, which is one of the things that you can do with the image effects app. It'll highlight certain descriptors and then give you dropdowns to select alternates. It highlighted it in this case. I would think that means it understands what it is because it's going to suggest additional things, which would tell me that it should know this is a totally benign prompt.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is it goes back to that thing where if you have a couple bad interactions with something, there are so many other tools that work that why would you go back to it? And again, this is Google's problem. I've now had this with Google a couple times because this is the issue that I ran to with Gemini as well, is that Gemini a couple times didn't work for what I wanted. And like, well, why would I go back to Gemini? Why didn't I just use ChatGPT or why didn't I just use Claude? There are all these things out there.
I had similar results. I went to Imagen 3, and if you look at my prompt, I tried to make a baby in a cream white hoodie, wearing black headphones, sitting at a podcast desk. Maybe in a few minutes, if you stay tuned, you'll see exactly why that is. But Imagen similarly shut down that request, and I have no idea why.
Maybe yours because it's a baby, but both of them, it didn't give you any information about why it rejected it. It just doesn't give you results, which is, again, it feels like, Google had this problem where they would make these kind of hyper, using the word woke, like images of the presidents, right? And they got in huge trouble because it was like, why isn't it making an image of George Washington? It's making a bunch of different races of George Washington. I wonder if they've just gotten so gun shy that they're really being careful about what this makes. And then it becomes, to be honestly, almost useless, right? Like if you're that gun shy and you can't see any images, it just doesn't feel like it makes sense to me.
Yeah, if I'm in my Google Slides and I'm making a presentation about our quarterly earnings, maybe Imagen 3 will be able to generate something. Line go up, hooray. But for our use cases right now, it was a little underwhelming. And I think what you said is really, really important. When you have a bad experience, which could be an inappropriate image generation, or in our case, a refusal to generate any images, you're moving on. You're going to another product. And I think we are all going to move on to Procreate. Because when I think AI and cutting edge implementations of the latest technologies, I want to go to one of the most popular iPad design apps, Gavin, and I want my AI, and they're going to give it to me.
Kevin, I'm sorry, but it's impossible. What? You're not going to get it. Actually, this is a very interesting story. The CEO of Procreate came out with a video a couple of days ago where they have vehemently said they are never going to interject AI tools into Procreate. Take a listen to this.
You've been asking us about AI. I usually don't like getting in front of the camera. I prefer that our products speak for themselves. I really fucking hate generative AI. I don't like what's happening in the industry, and I don't like what it's doing to artists. We're not going to be introducing any generative AI into our products. Our products are always designed and developed with the idea that a human will be creating something. We don't exactly know where this story is going to go or how it ends, but we believe that we're on the right path supporting human creativity.
Procreate is a huge app. I've used it a bunch. My kids have used it. It's a great iPad app. It has become like a very big creator tool for art and making art. It kind of launched as a kind of weird, like kind of alternative to Illustrator when the iPads first came out, but it's become a very big company. So my initial take on this, and I want to hear yours, is I get it. There are so many creators that absolutely despise AI tools. But I do think in some ways this could be shooting them in the foot a little bit, because in a world where you have all these possibilities come up and you want to use things like the stamp tool, which guess what, everybody, there's AI involved in the stamp tool in Photoshop. I think this could be something where it's a great PR play for them right now, but I'm not 100% sure the promise that this is never going to happen is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think Procreate is amazing, Gavin. I promptly uninstalled it this morning. No, I didn't.
Oh, I was gonna say, oh, everybody on the internet, Kevin has come down anti-Procreate, the most joyous gift in the world to creatives.
I'm so pro AI that I threw my iPad off the balcony because I couldn't figure out how to uninstall the app.
Kevin, you're anti-create. That's what you should be. Instead of Procreate, you're anti-create.
Oh no, there's a wormhole in my brain. You shattered the fifth wall. They're going to have to walk this back if their product is going to remain remotely competitive in whatever your timeline is. I could say in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. They're going to have to walk this back. It's a great press release. It rallied the never AIers. I think that's fine. But I think even those never AIers in time are going to slowly move the chains or move the goalposts and start saying, well, this implementation of AI is okay because it's not generating art and this, that, the other. It's just helping me streamline my workflow. And slowly that water's going to boil and then everybody's in the same pot.
Yeah,
I think. Could be wrong.
Think so. I think you're right. But also, like, I do want to shout out the fact that, like, look, I think the important lesson here is there's a lot of creatives who feel that the act of creating itself is being usurped by AI. And I just completely disagree with that in a very specific way, which is that if you'll see this dumb thing I made at the end of the show today, when we talk about it, these AI Date for You videos, there's something about the tools that AI gives you that allows you to create both faster and do things you weren't able to do before. And that is the trade-off, right? And granted, we've said this a bajillion times in the show, the training of these models in the initial run, clearly there are problematic issues with that. I think this is something we have to continue to think about going forward.
Let's shift our attention, Gavin, from a company that says they're never doing anything with AI to the foremost leaders of the scene, dropping some astonishing announcements on a blog post. They didn't actually release, well, they kind of released something new, but I guess it's fine. It's OpenAI, Gavin.
That's right.
We're talking OpenAI. Fine-tuning for GPT-4o is out, and I actually squeed a little bit with delight for that, but I understand why most people don't.
I know what fine-tuning is, but can you explain in this specific instance why this is pretty cool for people that might want to try to use it?
Fine-tuning helps you steer the output of these language models so that you get the desired result that you want. For example, if you're building a chatbot for customer support or for your AI boyfriend, you can
let's come up with a better example than that, Kevin. Come on, let's talk about what if you're fine-tuning a chatbot to make hot dogs speak a language that is like Klingon but something different. That seems like a really interesting use case.
You want a juggalo hot dog that only speaks with ICP parlance, right?
Yes, exactly. So help me build that, because that's clearly the world
I'm all
wants
kosher.
this.
Yes. So you would then, for example, for fine tuning, you would come up with a list of 10 to 10,000 inputs and outputs. If I ask you, hey, what's up? How are you feeling this morning? The juggalo hot dog might say what, Gavin?
It might say, I love Fago, and also I'm a big sausage, put mustard on me. Is that what it would say? If you're not familiar with
I'm going to fine-tune a model that every response is just, I am big sausage, put mustard on me.
Okay, keep going. These poor people listening to this are like, what just happened here? But that's fine.
Not to get morbid, Gavin, but I know what I'm going to lobby to have etched on your tombstone, my friend. I am big sausage.
It's just like it becomes a thing where people, as a tribute to me, just come around and spread mustard on my tombstone.
Hello. Boy, that was a detraction. The point is, you fine-tune so that you can get a certain type of response. That could be a certain format of a response, if you want code, or a certain tonality out of your agent. So now, if you're building with GPT-4o, you can fine-tune. The prices on this are also super competitive. So we talk a lot about individual users using AI in their workflows or creatives trying to generate new things. But from an enterprise standpoint, OpenAI is really keeping things attractive by rolling out features like this and making them cheap. They also, Gavin, announced a partnership with Condé Nast. Yep. So when we look at OpenAI's search product, which has been rolling out slowly to people, it's their Perplexity or their Google competitor. They're making arrangements to make sure that best-in-class content appears within those results, and they don't get slapped on the wrist with a giant lawsuit.
Actually, Matthew Berman, one of our favorite YouTubers, created a video which was comparing SearchGPT, because he got access. We don't have access yet. Most people don't. and Perplexity and Google search. And I have to say, Kev, after watching that video, I'm not super impressed by what SearchGPT is yet. It's very limited. I do see a world where in the future it's going to be really interesting, but the Perplexity product kind of is really compelling already. But anyway, the idea that they partner with Condé Nast is another way of signaling to the world at large, look, we're doing business as per usual in the way that people should be doing business. We're going to pay media companies for their ability to provide stuff for us. And this is really what OpenAI is doing going forward.
To be clear, that's Vogue, The New Yorker, Condé Nast Traveler, GQ, Architectural Digest, Vanity Fair, Wired, Bon Appetit.
The other thing that Condé Nast owns a big chunk of is Reddit, right? So there's no Reddit deal done yet, but we know that Reddit did a deal with Google, so we assume that there might be a Reddit deal around the corner as well. All of that is pretty big news. Again, just blog posts, no products, but OpenAI, we know your products are coming soon enough. Okay, Kev, there's one other big story that we want to cover here before we get into some really interesting AI video tools. Unitree's $16,000 humanoid robot goes into production. There is a great video that we'll be showing on the screen here, and we'll link in the show notes, of this robot just going bonkers. Like, it is just like dancing around, moving around fast. But again, the thing here that's really interesting is it's $16,000. Now, that is a lot of money, but when you think about the idea that, like, okay, is this thing going to work in my house for me? Am I going to have it be able to do the chores that I don't like to do? Is it going to be able to do certain things for me? It's not crazy. And you can see a world where, what if these got down to, like, say, $5,000 or $2,500?
Gav, let's keep it at a $15,000, $16,000 price point. Let's keep it there, but let's imagine 2.5 to 4.5 years from now, where version 3 or 4 of this is more capable, does move faster, can clean the house, can do the laundry, can make you the meals, can take out the trash. Let's imagine that. Let's make it $20,000. Well, guess what Americans are going to do now, right? They're going to drop the price of the car that they want from being like a $30,000 some odd dollar purchase, right? They're going to get the smart car off of Temu, and they're going to grab one of these as well.
Don't buy the Temu car. Don't buy the Temu car. I do not suggest buying a car off of Temu. There's going to be lots of problems.
Who needs wheels that actually spin around? You don't need those. Let them fly off. Your robot can repair it. No, I really think you're going to see consumers. What? Go ahead. Here we go.
I never thought about that before. But
robot pit crew?
No, but imagine this. Like, that's a really interesting use case of humanoid robots. Mechanics. This is mechanics. If you're listening, I'm sorry, because this is going to sound scary to you. But there is a world where my humanoid robot could easily download all the information it needs to fix my car, and I just send it out to my garage and have it work on my car and do the oil changes and everything. That is crazy.
I changed the fuel filter, not the oil filter, not the fuel filter, in a Ram 3500 diesel. Gavin, do you know how hard that was for me? I had to use more than a tool.
Yeah.
I had to get under a vehicle, but I did it harnessing the power of a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a world where people will make that decision. I think consumer spending habits are going to change drastically. And maybe instead of buying a new phone every year or opting for a $45,000 vehicle and making payments on it indefinitely, people are going to shift because they'll see the value of having that robo-assistant everywhere. I also love the memes of this robot folding up in very weird ways. I mean, it is like, it's look at how it articulates. It kind of
has the ray gun vibe, right? Like, I'd love to see it do an Australian breakdancing event. So, maybe robots do come into our homes, but there's a lot of people that don't believe that robots are actually a real thing. In fact, Kevin, there's a ton of people out there who kind of think that the internet is full of lies, right? That people are lying to us and we have to get closer to the truth. And this week's AI Co-host is actually really interesting. We have one of the largest baby podcasters on the planet. That's right. We have an exclusive interview with an AI denier. He is an infant supplement enthusiast, and he is a world-famous crib cage commentator. That's right, Kevin. We have Baby Joe Brogan on the show. This is Baby Joe. Can we meet Baby Joe?
So excited. As a fan of the crib cage championships, I've been watching them since the early 90s, Gavin. I'm so excited. Yes, Baby Joe Brogan, please say hello to the AI for Humans audience.
So Gavin and Kevin, huh? What's up, guys?
Hey.
And hey, to everyone listening to AI for Humans, if you're here for the truth, let's get something straight, okay? AI, robots. Nah, that's just a bunch of adults making up stories to keep babies in line. I mean, come on, if AI is so real, why haven't I seen one change a diaper or make a bottle?
Okay, now that is a good point. Baby Joe Brogan has a good point. Maybe because the articulation is so bad that when you see these robot hands cracking eggs or smashing walnuts, you don't exactly want it handling an infant in a diaper situation.
You really don't. I have to say, Kevin, I just realized our transition into Baby Joe was very, very hard right turn into what we're doing here. Just so everybody clear,
Well, speaking of hard right, we have Baby Joe Brogan here. Anything else you want to ask him, Gavin?
Baby Joe Brogan is an AI co-host. We created Baby Joe, but what we have done is basically taken Joe Rogan's essence, let's call it, and brought it into a baby. So Baby Joe, we want to hear more about your podcast. We want to know a little bit about what your show is and how you grew so big.
Yeah. So, the Baby Brogan podcast, it's like, where I get real about the baby experience. I started out just ranting about the stuff we all go through, like formula conspiracies and Big Crib.
Big
Trying
Crib?
to keep us down with nap schedules. Turns out a lot of babies were feeling the same way, but nobody was talking about it,
Oh,
So
sure.
I started bringing on guests, other babies, even a few toddlers who've got their own takes on the world. We debated everything.
Okay.
From the ethics of tummy time to the truth about teething rings. The key, just being real and not afraid to ask the tough questions.
I love like a baby Huberman talking about tummy time.
That's right, exactly.
The most optimal rubber animals to bring into tub time.
Exactly.
Like, is it the ducky? Is it a ship? Is it like a little rubber tugboat? Who knows?
Who knows?
We have to explore this. We got to trust the science. He did mention his guests, Gavin, and I think that's interesting.
We want when our audience out here may or may not be familiar with Baby Brogan, your feed may not be delivering this stuff. So Baby Brogan has interviewed some very other famous babies, as we said. This is a clip from his interview with baby Terrence Howard.
When you say number one plus number one equals number two, what do you mean?
The thing about all this, it's vibrational. Look, you do a number one, you got a wet diaper, right?
Sure. Yeah. That's how it works.
Okay, now I'm saying you do another number one, then vibrations, and voila, a number two.
But Terrence, it doesn't work like that.
You've got to keep your mind open here. Okay, I just had a vibration, Joe.
Okay.
Wow.
And that is
Wow, this is pretty impressive, Baby Joe. If you're listening to this on the audio, one of the reasons we did this AI Coast this week is because we wanted to show off what you're able to do now with these new video and audio tools. Go check out the YouTube video. We have some pretty interesting, basically clips we've made of what would look like a Baby Joe Rogan podcast. Before we roll out of here, we should play one more clip from Baby Joe's podcast where he interviewed a very famous CEO, Baby.
Joe, you know me, I have big baby ambitions.
You don't have to tell me, man. I've seen Baby X. It's so much better now. No more whiny little bitches begging for burpees or upside downsies.
Well, Joe, yes, but have you ever looked up into the sky at night?
Ooh, yeah, that, dangly mobile thing. It's freaking weird, man, just hanging out there. A lot of cool shapes, though.
Yes, very cool shapes. Well, we're going there. We're sending babies out into the great unknown. We deserve to know why those shapes dangle like that. How do they produce that soothing music? Why are they always moving?
Is that safe?
Is being a baby ever safe? No, pass me that joint.
Baby Elon Musk. Baby Elon, right? Baby Elon?
Baby Elon.
Baby Elon Musk, the inventor of the Cybertrike. We're all pre-ordering. We love it. We're super fans. Why did we just do that, Gavin? Why did we spend time creating these voices and these characters? What can the audience take away from that?
So this is part of our workflow that we're going to get into in a little bit, talking about how to take a very simple, dumb idea and turn it into something that's a little bit more complicated, maybe still very dumb, but more complicated. So we're going to get into that later. We're sorry for putting everybody through Baby Joe Brogan, but for now, we're going to put him aside, Kevin, and it's time to talk about some of the things that we've seen out there on the internet this week that we love. These may not be new AI tools, but these are people using AI tools in a cool way. It's AI. See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care. Then suddenly you stop and shout. AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
First and foremost, I want to shout out a creator whose name is Andre3_AI. And this guy created one of my favorite viral AI videos to date. It is the Game of Thrones, like, massive rave. There was also a version of this was with Lord of the Rings, massive rave. And you might have seen this where, like, it's a hardcore, like, kind of trance house music track. And it goes from, like, Game of Thrones character to Game of Thrones character, and then from AI character to AI character. And what was interesting about this is this guy, he at the time, he only had like 1,000 followers on X. Now he has 1,700. But somebody had taken his video, ripped it, and uploaded it as their own, and then Elon reposted it. There's a lot of people out there who are like, hey, he doesn't deserve the right to, he didn't create it, he just prompted it. That's not true. He did a lot of work on this to put it together. It is not an easy thing to do what he did, and it's a very well done thing. But even so, other people on social media taking what somebody kind of made and kind of purporting it, pushing it out there is not the greatest. And again, Elon does this all the time.
That's right. For anybody saying that there's no talent or artistry required for AI art, look at what Andre just made, that Game of Thrones rave, the Electronic Dragon Carnival, whatever you want to call it. Look at that. And then look at Baby Joe Brogan. All right? There are levels to this stuff.
That's
all right?
exactly
And if you're talented and creative, you can go viral on social as well. Speaking of that, Gavin, you turned me on to the Space Vets Children's series. Yep. And people should go look at it. It's made by Storybook Studios. They're a production company out of Germany. And when you watch the trailer, it looks like a pretty cool, competent animated kids series. A bunch of different characters floating around in space. There's animals, there's ships, and it is pretty elegantly animated with decent lip flap. But then you go down below on the page and you get to the making of, Gavin. And that's where you see that it's a very small team that's using AI pipelines so that they don't have to spend weeks modeling a character in 3D. They can use AI to generate a 2D character, then use another tool to make it 3D, then use another tool to film themselves and apply the animation to that character. And they do this for every aspect of the show. All of the textures in the spaceships, the set design, probably even some of the sound and music. This is the next gen workflow that I think more places are going to have to adopt if they want to compete with production companies in the future.
Kids animation especially, but animation overall is probably going to feel this first, right? And, you know, just to shout out, there is a big strike going on in the animation world right now. And I think that animation has always been a trickier place for people to get paid in because it's seen as lesser work, which it absolutely isn't. It's very difficult work, and it's really compelling work, as you can tell by things like Rick and Morty or The Simpsons or Family Guy being some of the biggest shows of all time. I think this is such a compelling workflow, right? Because you see one small team making something that could easily scale to a very large size. And if you go nitpick piece by piece, there are a few frames you can see things that are a little funky, but there were kids shows, Kevin, when I was a kid, like Scooby-Doo, which they literally reused frames often in the show, and they were still really compelling.
In Disney films they did. They're the
yes.
same cells of animation used from movie to movie, so absolutely.
That's right. And I also want to shout out the Google DeepMind podcast. This is a really cool podcast that's been happening for a couple years. And they had one of my favorite AI speakers on it, Demis Hassabis, who obviously leads Google DeepMind. Demis talks about the future of AI, where we are right now. He really gets into the idea that we might be both overhyped and underhyped right now, which I think is a compelling argument.
You really want AGI to be able to peer into the mysteries of the universe down at the Planck scale.
Yes.
Like kind of subatomic quantum worlds.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are things that we have not even yet conceived of that might end up being possible? I'm talking wormholes here.
Completely. Yes. I love wormholes to be possible. There is a lot of still things we don't understand about physics and the nature of reality. You know, obviously the quantum mechanics and unifying that with gravity and all of these things. And there's all these problems with the standard model.
There's giant gaping holes in physics.
In physics all over the place. It would be great to come up with new theories and then test those on massive apparatus, perhaps out in space. The reason I'm obsessed with Planck scale things, Planck time, Planck space, you know, is because that seems to be the resolution of reality.
That sounds like a PlayStation 6 marketing tactic. right? Remember the emotion engine for PlayStation 2? It crushed the Dreamcast. This is the resolution of reality. I'm on board.
The audio is great. You can go find it wherever you want. All right, Kev, we should jump into what we did with AI this week. And
we don't want to have Baby Brogan interview Baby Hassabis?
I don't trust that Baby Brogan would be genuine with the Baby Hassabis. I feel like that's not going to work.
He wouldn't.
But speaking of Baby Brogan, what we want to talk about this week is a workflow that's kind of unique and interesting and utilizes a lot of these new AI tools. And there are a lot of new things that have just broken in the AI video space. There's Runway Gen 3 Turbo, which means you can actually generate clips way faster. It's not as perfect as Gen 3 Alpha, but it's way more usable because you get to see this stuff faster. There's also a new update for Luma's Dream Machine. There is a new open-ended hotshot video model, which 4 people made. So there's all these new tools. But most importantly, Hedra dropped 1.5, which is their new character animation software. And Hedra, if you remember, as we talked about before, is a very good lip sync model, meaning that you take an image, it can get the words right, and it kind of moves the head in an interesting way. So this week I created I'm a big fan of these dating videos from the 1980s and early 1990s. The found footage guys kind of made it popular. There was a parody of them we did when I was at Jimmy's show, but it's people talking to camera and kind of telling their perspective dates about what they are. So I went through and I said, I wonder if I could make something with all these tools together. And I made something called AI Dates for You. So Kev, I wonder if you can play the first one of these I made, and then we'll kind of talk about how I did this.
Meet Chris.
It's not hard to understand. Boats, I love them. They're my, happy place. Give me boat and who doggy I'm there. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, boats.
Okay, so this is Chris, feathered hair, standing on a dock, talking about boats.
Look, a date with me, let's just say I've got a special plan. You come on to my boat. It's a sweet 10-year-old cruiser. You might have to help me out with a few things in case it doesn't start. I hope you like getting dirty because, the engine gets kind of greasy, and I don't really understand engines. Do you? I'm looking for a woman that understands how to fix boat engines. Did I mention that?
You can get a sense of what's going on here. And I think that I'll walk you through my workflow real quick, Kevin. Then we should talk a little bit about like how I think this could kind of change the future of media at large. So this started with a dumb idea in my brain, as most fun things always do. Then was like, I wonder if this could be something. I started writing a script. And literally when I say writing a script, it was just kind of like putting some ideas down on in my computer. And then the real thing that was like kind of the trigger was I went to Midjourney to try to create an image. So I found a prompt that somebody else had used to make like a 1980s style like movie character. And we'll put all these prompts in our show notes so everybody can have a sense of it. So I created this character who originally looked like an 80s action hero, but then I wanted to tweak him slightly and I put him in a marina. And the marina part came from that prompt. And then I was like, I wonder if this guy is like a boat guy. He could be a big boat guy. So I then finished the script. I wrote out these kind of 3 parts. I took that image, which was a single image of Chris, the final image that I have in here, and I used it in both Runway Gen 3 Turbo to make that image look like it was alive, and I put the graphics over that in an editing program. And then I used Hedra, and I just uploaded the audio, which I made the audio in 11 Labs. I uploaded that audio into Hedra, downloaded it, and put it all together. And to me, this is the promise of these tools, right? I am not an expert at any of this stuff. You could argue that I spent a lot of my life making dumb things for television comedy stuff. So like at least I have like an expertise of the idea brain a little bit, but I am not a graphic artist. I am not an AI artist. I am not a cinematographer. I'm not any of these things, but I was able to piece all this together. And the craziest thing, Kev, is I did this first one in about 45 minutes. And that felt like the big unlock to me when you look at what's possible here.
We use the same workflow essentially to bring Baby Brogan to life for this episode and the guests. I think the only difference is that rather than Midjourney, we used Flux, a different AI image generation software, but just describe the character that we want with a single still image. Throw it into Runway, give it some motion and movement if you want, use Hedra to make it talk. That 1.5 update is pretty incredible. The new update, they promise more realistic blinking and head movements, and it's there. You can see it. Like, it is an impressive program. And now I go, okay, how do we iterate on top of this? Can we take the Hedra output and track it onto Runway movement So it's
Yes.
not just a static avatar, and get actual camera movements with the lip flap? Can we feed everything through Face Fusion, a free program that has a face enhancer and a lip enhancer,
Yep.
so that we can clean up some of the blurriness, and your mind starts to spin about just bolting other tools into the process to improve the output?
That's right. And Kevin, this should be our time. We're asking for VC funding right here. So this is our product. No, I'm just kidding. But also, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, we're just like kind of two dummies kind of like banging around at tools. That's what's possible now. And I think it's just something for everybody listening to this or watching this, like, go try this workflow. Like, it's very simple. You can do it. I know people that have been watching and listening to our show forever have done stuff with lip sync models in Midjourney or try to make music. But like, it is now possible very quickly to make an interactive thing. Like, I've been thinking lately about like, what would it look like to make like a sitcom? Imagine a show like The Office, which is done with a lot of like looking at camera, like documentary style.
I want to see, now that especially that you've rendered the TV show aspect of it, the AI dates for you, I want to see that old found footage of the love connection powered by AI, because it is a Chuck Woolery, a host, seated at a couch talking to someone else who's mostly seated and watching video clips of date reactions. Like, that's totally it. And you can hallucinate footage from the dates themselves, which that show didn't even have. So that's just one format. Let's see more talk shows. Let's see esports streamers and live streaming content parodied, because that is mostly a person sitting at the computer. And you don't need a beefy workstation to do any of this. You don't need a $5,000 graphics card. In fact, most of the tools that we've talked about, there are free versions of them available. Even Hedra gives you a watermarked free output to try. So sign up for FAL. That's FAL. They let you play with Flux for free and quickly. They'll give you $1 worth of credits, which will give you hundreds of image generations. Take that. Throw it into Hedra. Use your own voice, which you can record right on their website. Use AI to make a voice. There's no reason you shouldn't be experimenting with this stuff right now, unless you're a Procreate user.
Or you are a bot listening to our show. In that case, do everything you can, bot, to up our algorithmic work. Kev, we should shout out we have a 5-star review we want to read. It is a very short and fun one, but it is from I Am Carp, and it says, fun, funny, and informative. I never miss an episode. I also listened to Last Week in AI. Good show. One of the hosts was a guest host on Last Week in AI, and I was so impressed. Wah, 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 wah. That was me. Thank you for the great infotainment. Thank you, I Am Carp. That's wonderful. If you leave a 5-star review for us on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, we will read it. And also, guess what, Kev? Just this week, Apple Podcasts is now accessible on the old internets. You do not have to go through their app to leave a review. So if you're listening to this, go to Apple Podcasts right now on the web and leave us a review. Please, it doesn't have to be 5-star. We like it if it is. But the 5-star reviews we will read here.
That's right. You want to leave 4? Hey, that's your business. But we're not reading it. And that's our business. And business is booming. Also, a huge thank you. Magical scroll time on the screen, Gavin. Yes, thank you to our patrons. Thank you to everybody who thus far has expressed an interest in jamming a couple dollars into our G-string or the tip jar on the counter, whatever visual you want. That's fine. It doesn't matter. The point is, we appreciate you very much. Thank you to all those fine folks that just scrolled along. We will have the Discord up and running within a week's time. So go over there, back us on Patreon, get over on the Discord, and start sharing your amazing creations with the world.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.